Piggy Chapter 2. The true ending still manages to elude the best of us. Minitoon still giving out hint after hint that don't seem to help at all. But while everybody's busy figuring out the true ending, I think we need to look a bit further ahead. I think we need to look into a reality where Minitoon creates a Piggy 2 after his break, which I think is almost guaranteed. It depends on how burnt out Minitoon is. Judging from just the good ending, the bad ending, and the notes we found in Chapter 12, I have a pretty good idea as to what that can involve. So be sure to tune in till the end of the video and let's dive right into Piggy Chapter 2. So, to figure out what's gonna be in the second installment of Piggy, we need to go back. We need to look at the unanswered questions of the previous Piggy chapters. Minitoon will have to explain these in future. And if they're not explained in the true ending, which I doubt most of them will be, then it's almost certain to appear in the next one. So, a while ago, my last theory video I did, I gave a list of unanswered questions that Chapter 12 would need to answer, and it pretty much answered none of them. Only a couple. Let's go through all of them. Number 1, why was Mrs. P sick? Now, something in Chapter 12 leads me to believe that she isn't actually sick. I'll get more onto that later, but let's assume she was. For the purpose of the story, I don't think we need to know why she was sick. The reason I thought it was a big deal before was because that note in City that said Mr. P was researching a cure, that led me to believe that Mr. P was working on a cure to something before the infection. Because the only research notes that we've seen from Mr. P is not how to cure the infection, but how to cure whatever patient 0 was suffering. There were no notes about his progress towards a cure for the infection that was going on. In fact, he was the one that was infecting people with the potions. So I'd say it's more of a 50-50 toss-up, so we can scratch that one off the list. That's unnecessary. But this one, why did Mr. P make 7 potions to make the world a better place? He knew they'd turn the people into the monsters, but he didn't know that those monsters could infect other people. Why did he try and turn them into monsters in the first place? My theory, if Minitoon isn't going to answer this, is that it's part of his research. Part of his research for the cure was somehow testing the people that he's given the potion, but then that brings in a massive plot hole. Why did he give Bunny the potion all the way back in Metro when he was leaving on a helicopter? Because he knew he'd never see Bunny again. Actually, remember, Mr. P went back in his helicopter to look for them. He went back to Metro to look for Bunny. He went back to Forest to look for someone. And the person I think he might have been looking for in the forest was Sheepy. In one of the latest secret notes, Mr. P says his original group was made of Miss P, and also notice how he calls her Miss P and not Mrs. P, Sheepy, and Bunny. Now, where do we see Sheepy in this story? That's right, the forest. And Mr. P, he goes to Metro looking for Bunny, then he goes to Forest. Now it could be either Miss P or Sheepy, and I think it's more likely to be Sheepy in that case. But that begs a question. Where is Miss P then? What happened to her? Well, this comes up in the next question. Why was Mrs. P in City? Remember that little window silhouette? After all these memory ghosts popped up, one could easily argue that Mrs. P was in fact just another shadow memory. Just like Bunny, and I assume just like Doggy. However, there is some evidence that contradicts that. Firstly, we ourselves have never had any experience with Miss P. Remember, our players have never met her. I think one of the main themes of the story is that these are memories, distorted memories. Memories being the key word. These aren't ghosts. These are just in our heads. If we have no memories of Miss P, why does she appear in the city window to us? And not only that, if she was a ghost or a shadow memory, how come she needs the lights on in that apartment? And why does she cast a shadow on the window? You'd think a ghost would be transparent, right? You'd think a shadow memory would be transparent, but apparently light bounces off them and they can cast a shadow. I don't think Miss P is a memory at all. I think Miss P is well and truly alive. And I think this could be quite a big hint as to who TSP is. Speaking of TSP, we have not met him. We've gone chapters 1 to 12, first mentioned in chapter 8. He's been doing stuff apparently this entire time. There was no mention of him at all in chapter 12. So what happened to TSP? I think we might get a hint about that in the true ending. And if you're wondering why I'm so suspicious of Mrs. P, let's look at a possible hint that IKEA gave in Creekcraft's stream. While Creekcraft was trying to work out the true ending, IKEA sent this mysterious message in the chat. It was obviously hexadecimal code, but once decoded, guess what it says? She wanted to test her husband. Who is the most likely to be a couple in Roblox Piggy? Mr. and Mrs. P. Who knows, IKEA could be trolling us, but this makes sense because this also coincides with Minitoon's hint. Take this with you. Remember me by it. Don't lose this too. So if that's Mrs. P saying something to Mr. P, and then the reason for that is she wanted to test her husband, that means Mrs. P has plans that people don't know about. Something awfully suspicious about her there. Something's just not right. But let's move on from there for now. Another of the questions was, why did Mr. P abandon us in hospital? Well, fortunately, we do know that now, because he thought we were infected. But why did he think we were infected? Is it because we passed out? That would be a very unusual place to just randomly pass out. I think the popular theory that everyone's saying still rings true. Mr. P tried to infect us, and then he saw it was working, so he bailed on us, but we were totally fine. Once again, why would Mr. P give Bunny a potion as well if he wasn't even around to see what would happen? It's a bit weird. And also, pretty much every secret note in the mall, those were all hinting at something major, and nothing came out of it. She escaped, but she couldn't have gone far. That seemed like a massive note, but we didn't hear anything about it. Now that one could be referring to Mandy Mouse, although that would be interesting. It seemed like it was much more important. But do you know which notes were? Don't trust the SI. That never happened. Who were we meant to not trust? What is it talking about? And then we can take advantage of the situation caused by Mr. P. What did they even do? They did nothing in the end. Unless it's going to happen in the true ending. Unless that can lead on to the very beginnings of Piggy Part 2. And one final question that has come up from this chapter. Mr. P mentions Miss P was part of his initial group. If she was part of the initial group, Miss P, Bunny, and Sheepy, then who was the first test subject? Who was patient 0 that he's been talking about? Because it seems this group was formed after the infection started. Mr. P said she was very sick and she didn't have strength because it had to be restored. So if Miss P was indeed patient 0, if they were testing it on her, if they were restoring strength and becoming more aggressive, why would Miss P be considered part of the group if she was the one that was extremely ill? Think about it. If you're in a research team and you've got a super sick patient, wouldn't the group be the team of doctors? I don't think they'd include the patient in the group. So we could have been totally wrong. Patient 0, the one Mr. P was worrying about, may not have been Miss P. It almost makes sense because he refers to her as Miss P, not Mrs. What if they aren't husband and wife? What if Mr. P has someone else to look after? So then, what happened to Miss P? Okay, so let's talk about specifically what the true ending could involve. Well, one thing that's pretty much confirmed in the true ending is that I don't think Mr. P is gonna make it. Because we know Mr. P came into contact with Substance 128. He's infected. That's most likely the cause of all these hallucinations he's having. That's why he's becoming crazy. Just look at the 5th note found in chapter 12. I've failed everyone. Now I am a soulless body, wandering without purpose, fighting without reason. That certainly sounds similar to something we know. Remember the decoded chalkboard of Outpost? So one thing we can pretty much confirm in the ending is that Mr. P will in fact become infected. But that doesn't mean he's dead. He could most certainly still be alive, which would be absolutely amazing because I think Piggy Story 2 will still follow the general idea of the good ending. I still think that they are going to be looking for a cure and we are most likely going to find one if that's the main focus of Piggy 2. But for every story, we need an antagonist. This story, it's been Mr. P. The next story, Piggy 2, we will be up against TSP, the organization. Now, who could TSP involve? If my predictions are true and TSP does involve Miss P, perhaps we are in fact getting the Vegetable Squad. Well, if you have a look at the Peppa Pig website, there are not many other characters left, especially in other. Check this out, other characters. The only ones we have, Madame Gazelle's infected, Mr. Potato will likely also be infected, Dr. Hamster, who is Dr. Hamster? Oh, Miss Hamster. Mr. Scarecrow, don't even know that. I feel like that would be a pretty cool guy. It'd be a bit weird for a Scarecrow to show up. Simon Squirrel and the Queen herself! My God, the Queen's a Peppa Pig character? The Queen is the only human inhabitant of Peppa Pig's world, excluding Father Christmas. Santa's in Peppa Pig? The Santa person. Oh no! Piggy 2, we're up against Santa himself! But to wrap it all up, true ending, Mr. P is gonna go. I think we'll get a hint at TSP. We're gonna have to start chasing after them. And then Piggy 2 will be our fight to find the cure and to stop the plans of TSP. Well, everybody, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and I'll be back again tomorrow. Be sure to like and subscribe. Goodbye!